All right. So we have on Shelby Johnson from Five Pillars Nations and the Real Estate Rockstar Podcast, which is the number one real estate podcast for agents. Welcome aboard, Shelby.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I thought today we would talk a little bit about how you got started in real estate and what you did, how you started as an agent, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, once upon a time, I was in college and I was there on an ROTC scholarship. And I didn't really want to be in the army, but I didn't want to, have to pay for college. So, I was like, fine, I'll do 4 years after college to reimburse me for, the money I didn't want to spend. And during this whole time, I didn't really want to be in the army. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grow up. But I was doing the army thing. And then eventually I hit this point, which a lot of people do in their careers, where they're like, wow, what am I actually doing with my life? Like, I don't have any of the time freedom or, the autonomy over my work. And I just literally have the Sunday scaries like crazy, like this jolt in my stomach. I don't want to go to work the next day on Monday. And I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And so I started thinking about how do I get out of this? And around that time period, I was introduced to Bigger Pockets and I was introduced to Robert Kiyosaki and some different like really influential types of knowledge that just changed my outlook on really what my life could be like. And at that point, over and over again, you hear about real estate investing. And if you just, buy investment properties, then they can make money in your sleep and you can have financial freedom and, live the life of your dreams. And so I was like sold and got out of the army, got my real estate license as a means to make money so I could fuel my passive income dreams. And yeah, the rest is, I guess, history. I don't know.
Yeah, that little purple book gets a lot of people into investing in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah. So do you feel like getting your real estate license was a good step in order to start investing, or how do you feel about that?
It's such a good question. For me personally, in my scenario, it was an amazing step, but I was doing it full time. I was doing two full-time jobs. I was full-time real estate agent while I was doing full-time pursuits on my investment, building the portfolio. And for me, it made sense because I had, the whole time when I was not sleeping to work on real estate in general. And so by being able to pour my full focus into real estate agent and investing, the agent side allowed me to have access and understand the transactions and make a lot more connections that in turn provided me with opportunities in the investment space that it just really worked out for me. I say it for me because a lot of people were like, oh man, I want to be a real estate investor. I should get my real estate license. And if you're working like a 9 to 5 and you're just doing this on the side, I would absolutely say do not do it because the leverage of a real estate agent who knows what they're doing, who's good, especially in the investor space, is like worth their weight in gold. And for you, it's leverage, right? And
Mhm.
and for the buy side, you don't pay the commission, at least right now. At closing, it's paid by the
Yeah.
seller. So that's I would say depends.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would definitely say all agents are not equal. So
100% agreed.
and it's like a unicorn agent when you find one that works with investors well. So
100%. Yep.
yeah. So
That was me for years.
once you started with your license and how long did it take you to really get pick up steam in the investing side?
Investing sides. So I closed on my first intentional investment property right before I got licensed.
Okay.
And by the end of year one, I had 16 doors in my portfolio,
Wow.
but they were also multis. So
Okay.
I had, a duplex and then I bought a single family, a duplex and a 6 unit. And then I had another one from back when it was a primary residence. That's why I said it was my first intentional was in 2017.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on who you ask if that was quickly or not. It Yeah, so I aggressively pursued it, if that's your question.
All right. Yes,
Full
definitely.
steam.
I would say 16 units, whether it's doors or houses. Doors are still separate tenants, so you're that's a lot in 1 year. What did you do for capital to build that fast?
Yeah. So my very first one, I put 25% down on a duplex that was $75,000. And this is back in the end of 2017 in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So at that point in time, life was good as an investor. I don't even know how good I had it.
None of us did.
You could pick up like literally this was on. So this property in particular was on the MLS for over 70 days. It was listed at 90,000. It had tenants on each side. I think they were like 550 or 600 at that time. It's much higher now, which is amazing. And then I went in and I just was like $75,000 because, bigger pockets, everyone says the low ball or whatever. And then they're like, we accept. And I was like, it's easy. Um, it's not, but I put my 25% down to buy that property. And as I was like closing, I was signing away this money. I was like, holy shit, like I can't do this again and again because I do not have the cash to keep putting down 25% on a $75,000 property, like almost made me broke. Like it was close. So the next one that I bought was using a primary residence. I used my VA loan, 0% down to buy a quad, to house hack. And then after that is when I was pretty much tapped out. I'm like, I used my savings, I used my primary residence. What can I do now? And that's when I got into the BRRRR strategy. And so the BRRRR strategy, I used so much different ways to get the capital to actually purchase and renovate the property with the intent of course, refinancing out and pulling that money back, repaying, whether it be I did lines of credit. I did weird loans at the bank. I did hard money. I did private money. I did a lot of shit. So lots of different financing methods. And then I would do delayed financing on the back end to recoup that money as quickly as possible.
All right. So, first off, explain really quickly what the BRRRR is for people
Yes.
that don't know.
Yes. Okay. It is where you buy usually a piece of crap. It doesn't have to be a piece of crap, but it's easier to imagine if you buy a piece of crap property and then you're going to renovate it. So you're going to go in there and you're going to make it pretty. And by doing that, you're increasing the value. So buy for next rehab, renovate. Then you're going to rent it. So you're going to put a tenant in there. So it's producing income for the property. Then, now that it is worth more and there's a tenant in the property, you can go to a lender and say, hey, I would like to refinance. That's the last R. Well, second to last R.
Yep.
Refinance this property so you can recoup 75%, depending on the bank, but roughly 75% of that new appraised value. And then once you recoup that funds, hopefully it's everything that you put into it to begin with, all of the money it took to purchase and renovate. At that point, you can repeat the process. That's the last R. So buy,
Yeah.
rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
And if you're really good, you could actually pull out a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, oh, dude, the times I mean, I'm not investing currently,
Yeah.
but I think the times are hard these days
Yeah.
because
You got to get really creative now to make things
really,
work and usually go out of the traditional, like just long-term rental as well.
yeah.
Um, and then the last part that you mentioned before we started talking about the BRRRR was delay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Delayed financing.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is where it gets fun. With a normal BRRRR strategy, if you let's say get a loan to do the purchase and the renovation of your BRRRR to buy and renovate, maybe you get a loan. That lender is going to put a lien against the property, right? And then when you go to refinance it, the banks will say, most banks will say, we can't refinance until you've held that property for 6 months. So there's this delay that happens. You're like, oh shit, man, I finished my reno and there's a tenant in there. And now I have to wait 4 more months before I can do it again. So that was the hurdle that I was trying to overcome by doing delayed financing. And the difference with delayed financing is that you don't have to wait the 6 months if there is no lien against the property when you do your purchase. So if you use private money and your private money lender doesn't make you put a lien against the property, if you use a line of credit because it acts as a form of cash, there's no lien against the property. If you use those financing methods, then what you can do is as soon as the renovation is complete, it doesn't even have to have the tenant in there, you can go and say, hey, I'd like to do delayed financing. And what they'll do though, they'll let you do it. But the tricky part is they will only let you take out 75% of the value or the max that you put into it. The
Okay.
or is so important because it's whichever is less. And so it
Gotcha.
doesn't matter if you come in and you're like, I did all this and now it's worth this. I need 75% of what it's worth. If you put less into it as determined by the closing disclosure, then they will only let you pull out that amount. So there's a workaround. Of course,
Okay. Let's
there's
hear
always a
it.
workaround. So the key is in order to recoup the full amount that you put into it, because normally when you close on a property, you are only on the closing disclosure at the closing table, you're only accounting for the purchase, right? Because the renovation is happening after the fact,
Yes.
right? So in the closing disclosure, there's only the purchase. So when you do the delayed financing, they would only see that little amount and you would never get the money out for the renovation. But the workaround is putting the full amount for the purchase and the full amount for the renovations on the closing disclosure, as well as any other fees that you can freaking think of onto the closing disclosure to be paid at closing, because now that's the source document and the lender will use that as the max amount that you can recoup. And
Oh,
there's a lot of,
interesting.
yeah, but
Yeah.
if you're thinking about it right now, you're probably like, well, how can you pay in advance for work that hasn't been done? Why would you trust your contractor with that? And I don't have to go into the deep, but if your
Yeah.
listeners do have questions, I know the shit like the back of my hand and I can help them.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, we won't dig into that. I'm sure there's
sorry,
plenty of
it's
different
too
ways that
much.
you can
Was
get
that
that out
already too
between.
much? Paul, you're like, Shelby, stop. Stop
You're
talking.
fine. You are fine.
Okay.
Um, you're just energetic and you're going for it, so you're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Usual.
we will we will not dig into that right now. If you want to, we'll have Shelby share all of her contact information at the end.
Yeah. Sounds
And then you
good.
can reach out to her.
Yeah.
So, you're investing in 2017, 2018, built up quite a bit of doors. Sounds like Fayetteville, North Carolina mainly,
Yes,
or
primarily Fayetteville. And I did invest all the way up until 2020 is the last time that I acquired to hold in by the end of 2020 was. And then 2021 was the year of the refinances. But anyway, go
okay.
on.
So, how many
Yes.
doors are you up to now?
Well, at my max, I was up to 74. And
Wow.
during the peak of 2021 was my refinance year, but also my sell year because it was like the market was hot, and
Yeah,
I was like, this property is not, cash flowing the way that I thought it would. And so I sold off a chunk and I am at 45 plus a primary. So 46 if you count my house.
which is still awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I connected with you through seeing that you were down in Charlotte and you built a pretty robust team down there, which I've met a lot of now. So,
Good. I'm so glad. I love them.
yeah.
Great, great people. So.
Right. So, tell me a little bit more about building out your team and how that helped you in your journey.
Yeah, so that has evolved so much too. I'm like abbreviated version, Shelby. How has it evolved? I think mostly it's evolved from doing a lot and sharing a lot. So it's like if you want things, you have to do more things, and then more things happen to you. It's just this like it's like action spurs action,
Yeah.
And so I did a lot, my first year as an agent and investor, and I was on social media and I started a meetup and just started to attract people who were like, that's my same energy. I want to do that same thing. That's my person. And so more and more people became attracted to that. And then the people who joined, Five Pillars would attract more people. And it really did grow very rapidly. And overall, rapid growth is something to be very cautious about. Hindsight 2020.
Right.
Um, but overall, I mean, because I'm doing the abbreviated story, it's been amazing. And even to this day, like having the people in my world who are just, growth minded and like not scarcity minded at all and take ownership for their life and their
Mhm.
actions and put forth a lot of effort. And like, it's just really fucking cool. I like it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, like I said, I met a few people and you have quite a few people on your team that are prior service as well, which is
totally.
awesome. I feel like that's always like a good connection point for people that are prior service. So,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
And you are no longer in Charlotte from what I understand, right?
I'm in Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay. But how much connection do you still have in Charlotte with the team down there, and what's like where are you connected and what are you doing still?
Where am I? Feel like I'm everywhere.
Okay.
Um, I'm definitely still connected with the Charlotte people. But I guess it depends on what you mean by connected. Like we, as Five Pillars, it's virtual and it's
Okay.
nationwide, and so we do things as a group weekly. And it's all optional, if people are doing their own things too. But we meet weekly, and then we also do retreats, and we travel abroad, and we ran an Ironman, last year, and a
Cool.
marathon, and we went surfing. Like it's like a lot about like life and also business fun and development.
Yeah. Definitely. So really it sounds like you're still a big part of the team even from a distance.
Oh,
So,
for sure,
yeah,
for
that's
sure.
awesome. And I see you all over the place now. You're going to conferences here and there, and you've really made your ways in the community. So,
Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
So before we close everything up, where can people contact you if they have any questions or even need referrals, to buy a
Uh,
house?
so my favorite place is just to go to Instagram and go to the Shelby Show with two underscores, the Shelby Show. And you can just message me there and we'll be friends and DM and all the things. But if you don't want to do it that way, that's fine. You can go to fivepillarsnation.com and there's like inquiries or Shelby at Five Pillars Nation. So those.com. Yeah. Those are
Perfect.
the
I will put both of
places.
those in the description of the video so people can
Great.
reach out.
Perfect.
So before closing this off, any let's see, any closing thoughts that you have that could get somebody into investing, buying their first investment property?
uh yes. Um depends on which type of person I'm talking. I'm just gonna say that no one's coming to save you. No one's gonna do it for you. If you want it, you have to go out and aggressively, assertively pursue what you're looking to do. And so just do it. If it's something you want, take the action, take the ownership, and do it.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Shelby, for coming aboard, and I
Yeah,
really appreciate you taking the time to jump on my podcast.
of course. It was so fun hanging out with you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you too.